So Chris Salvador, this is here's some better things that I could have seen where Up could have taken a better turn as a story. Why not have it that let's just synopsize that this was another version of Up. We have Carl Fredricksen. He does meet Elise, and they do get married. But the difference this time is that Carl, as a kid, has always been born with a bad heart. So his heart does not allow him to have energy levels that are as high up as Elise. Elise is very energetic. She has lots of passion. She has lots of dreams. She wants to do a lot of things, as we saw how silent Carl was. That he's, and that the relationship was that she liked him because he would listen to her. And that the area that they lived in, we could establish, was kind of an old fogey's retirement home place. That everyone in the town was essentially elder. And that there weren't a lot of kids because the kids wouldn't come to visit the parents, and that, here she was stuck out with a bunch of fogies, and then Carl was kind of the youngest one, and, and then basically, she ended up falling in love with him, and they shared a passion for adventure and watching, I have to look him up, and I remember what he was, they shared a passion for, what was the guy, Mandrake, or... I'll get his. Hold on. I'll get the character's name in a minute here. It doesn't even say there. Charles Muntz. Okay, Muntz. All right. It took take me a lot of months to find him out. But basically, they shared a passion for Muntz, and the fact that he's an adventurer and all that, and you got that. And then what happens though is she does not die. Elise does not die. She just decides to leave Carl. They eventually she gets to an age. Over the years, she compiled all these dogs. All those dogs were not Charles Muntz's dogs. They were Elise's dogs. She had a bunch of these dogs, and that eventually, they built the collars. That Elise was the one who programmed the electronic collars. But of course, because she was around Carl and his ear problem, and in the town, everybody had ear. Defections, that they would never be able to hear them because every time they would tune to hear, it would just ruin the collars. And this is something that would keep going on. And, basically, like I said, it keeps Elise back. It holds her back in the town where she's this energetic person. And then, of course, she gets to this aging, elderly person, and then she just realizes she can't take it anymore. She gets an offer from Charles Muntz to come over and go basically to the island with her, Paradise Falls, and she decides to divorce and leave Carl all on his own. Now, basically, we've established that Doug the dog was not. Doug the dog was kind of a little bit like Carl. He was kind of the dunce of the dogs. Like all the other dogs were great and kind of like the Toy Story soldiers. They would always just be able to work and do what they needed from Elise, and all the dogs would just hop to it and hop to it. And then, of course, what ends up happening is that, Elise just abandons all these dogs with Carl, and Doug is the only one who is kind of like the duncy one, that he and Carl have, maintained a pretty good friendship there. And then now all these other dogs are stuck. Alpha, all of them are stuck with these collars with Carl, while she left. Now, you established that what's going on is that Elise goes out there and essentially falls in love with Charles Muntz. That would also be one of the things. That she's decided to divorce Carl. She's fallen in love with Charles Muntz. She's going to live with him for the remainder of her, years, and be adventurous and, have the life that she was always held back. What we end up realizing is that bird creature, Kevin, is that they're a bunch of there are a bunch of girl birds on this island, and that, now is mating season, and they go off, and they fly off, and, we don't know where they head, but they go off, and they go look for males. The enemy threat we would bring on is, of course, poachers and bandits and people and mercenaries who wanted to capture these creatures and kill them and use them and sell their bones to museums and everything. So you have these creatures, these poachers, and they show up. But they show up just as the birds leave, but they'll be returning in a couple of weeks after mating season's ended. And basically what we established is that what we would like to show is that Charles Muntz, and it sounds kind of free, but he would fall more for this Kevin, and it sounds very fruity, but he kind of would, he would kind of show to Elise that his affection is not, he kind of becomes really attracted to this bird and attracted to this, this creature, and it becomes very flirtatious and very, you know what I'm saying, and then she has to vie for the affections of her new husband with this bird, Kevin. And, he's just kind of, falling in love with the creature because it secretes a pheromone or something that, of course, creates these kind of lucidities within him, but he's very falling for this creature. Now, of course, Carl ends up not wanting, he decides to take all the dogs and fly out and go find her and kind of get, basically try and win her back, of course, because he's so slow and, older, and, he doesn't have that energy level. Now, the point would be is that once he gets to this place, that because he has the helium balloons, and when you put helium and you suck it in, it makes your mouth high-pitched. It would establish that there is a plant, or, there's the various amounts of plants, and when the helium hits it, and you eat it, and of course, here we go, up, the old man becomes up, energetic, and he's just jumping around, and he's got energy that he's never had. It's very Viagra, I understand, but that's the point, is that these poachers and everybody realize that all these balloons, all this heat, we need helium on the flowers, and we combine them, and we can sell this plant to people, and you become energetic. You essentially become the Flash, or Dash, and you become, you just get energy that you never had. And this is something that, and that, like I said, that story, I could have probably cared more about. It lifts you up. It gets your adrenaline pumping, and you can establish the villains, the adventure, the winning back. And it sounds a little like The Incredibles trying to win the family back. But, now it's done from the kind of geezer's mentality. And then you could have still had Russell. You could have still had Russell show up as, maybe one of, he tagged along with the poachers, that they were using them as a cover, as a front. They were using these wilderness kids and their badges as a front to poach. And, they show up to the island with these kids, and of course, there you go, and you see, and now you've dug the dogs went there, the collars, and like I said, hear that story, and go, okay, there's some adventure, there's upload, you've got the poachers, you've got also creatures they don't even know about on the island. It doesn't make Charles Muntz really the bad guy. He's kind of loopy and lucidity and out of it and falling in love with this bird. And then you create all this, and you go, oh, up. And then you go, Elise didn't die. And then you go, okay, and the adventure, and you go, okay, up. But is that what we got? No, yawn. We got this other version whereby the worst thing that could happen is the dogs go after our main character to try and possibly, kill him, and in cars, and plane cars, and yawn. I'm falling asleep getting bored just thinking about it now, that they run after, it doesn't have that same amped upness. And like I said, it's just something that I just thinking now is like, well, let me say, I know people are going to go, you're an idiot, Up was awesome, but it wasn't an adventure. It wasn't, it introduced things, it had things, and it just wasn't a tale that I want to revisit, and I just don't care, and I yawn, I want to go to bed, and I just, and I feel like you could have still got a lot of what those other things, elements, but put it into a level that made sense. So, that was, if anybody was going to bitch about why didn't I think Up sucks, right now, that just made me, that made me more entertained in the pitch than what was presented. So, there you go.